Gary Neville is wrong and Arsenal will win the Premier League. Today we're going to be taking a look at Arsenal's 3-2 win over Manchester United. Also be diving into the problems at Liverpool and at Chelsea. In terms of the big game in the Premier League this weekend, Manchester United travelled to London to face Arsenal. And it was a game of real quality in the Premier League, won by Eddie Nketiah's 8th and 9th goals of the season, taking him to being Arsenal top goal scorer. In terms of the two sides, it was interesting to see the development of both teams. Obviously, Mikel Arteta's 3 years at Arsenal, we can see how they play, how they press, how they attack, how they break teams down. And Manchester United under Erik ten Hag, 6 months in the job, work in progress, but there's some real positives to take out of a performance and the performances of this season. I think one of the first things that we've got to look into in terms of this game was the pressing. One of the first things that Arteta addressed at Arsenal was the defensive structure and pressing triggers and pressing and work rate of the overall squad. Arsenal pressing high and then dropping back into a 4-4-2 shape and really covering the pitch and making Arsenal better defensively and far harder to beat. So in terms of this match, we're going to take a look at the first 2 goals because both of them actually came from pressing moments. Manchester United's counter press and Arsenal pressing high up the pitch. When we look at what Arteta's doing in terms of his structure, they're definitely further down the line in terms of the high press, the counter press and the deep block is a lot better than what Erik ten Hag's Manchester United have. But saying that, Arsenal of course provide a lot of different options in their build-up, which causes the opponent's press to be broken. In terms of Arsenal's build-up for this game, of course, we saw the classic move of Zinchenko moving into central midfield to get on the football and to dictate the play, to join Thomas Partey, which causes a number of issues when you're pressing Arsenal. If you're squeezing them in a 4-2-3-1 like Manchester United did at the Emirates, you're committing your attacking midfielder, you're committing your near and far side wingers to try and cut the pitch in half, but you've also got to commit your central midfielders. What Arsenal like to do as well, and what they did against Manchester United, is pin the fullbacks with really high and wide wingers and have Odegaard and Eddie Nketiah dropping off the line. The issue that Manchester United found in this game when they were pressing high was not only Granit Xhaka was dropping off into this little pocket of space created at left back to break the press, but at times United were in a sort of halfway house and Zinchenko would break the lines and play through. On the opposite to that, Arsenal pressed high with both fullbacks high up the pitch and squeezed United out of the back, causing them big problems. But that's not to say United's press was ineffective, because we can take a look at the first goal that Manchester United scored earlier in the game, a counter-pressing moment that led to the first goal. So Manchester United in this moment, 16 minutes into the game, dominating the football, which is really interesting. We've not seen Manchester United dominate the ball away at Arsenal for a very long time. Gone are the days of the counter-attacking style under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer or Jose Mourinho parking the bus. But obviously we can see Arsenal's really good defensive structure, the 4-4-2 shape, really narrow, really compact, very difficult to play through. Manchester United utilised a lot of long passing out of the back from Lisandro Martinez against Arsenal to try and hit Weghorst through the middle, or Marcus Rashford spinning in behind, and it was a good tactic that's worked well in previous games. But in terms of this play right now, Lisandro clips a long ball up to Bruno Fernandes, making that run in behind. At this moment, there's a good moment from Arsenal's defensive line. Ben White then steps in and plays into midfield. What I liked about this moment from Manchester United is they committed their bodies high. The fullback moved into kind of an offensive position and pressed the ball. Too many times Manchester United sat their fullbacks back, dealing with the threat of Martinelli and Saka versus their back four rocking over and one of the centre backs picking up the wide players and Luke Shaw or Aaron Wan-Bissaka playing high. So Ben White playing into midfield into a congested area to Saka. Manchester United read this moment. Marcus Rashford needs to be a bit better defensively. This is a really good moment from Marcus Rashford. United countered and scored a goal. But too many times we saw Rashford kind of opting out of certain defensive phases, and if he wants to reach the heights, which we all believe he can do, needs to be putting the hard yards in a defensive sense. But in this play, of course, Rashford dropping back, doubling up with Luke Shaw on Saka as he cut it inside. Luke Shaw winning the ball back through a really good tackle. Partey recovering and then Rashford switching on and winning it. Dropping a little 1-2 with Bruno Fernandes. And then the moment of absolute brilliance, beating one of the best defensive midfielders in European football with a cheeky little nutmeg. driving at the opponent's defenders, with Weghorst pulling the centre-back away from Marcus Rashford, and Rashford cracking an early shot low into the bottom corner. This is a brilliant moment for Manchester United in a pressing sense, committing those bodies high, squeezing the play and allowing United to counter-attack on an Arsenal build-up structure, getting an early shot away and taking the lead at the Emirates. Absolutely superb. So that's Manchester United pressing. This was a moment where United squeezed, Luke Shaw committed high, won the ball back, and a bit of Rashford brilliance to open up the scoring. But in terms of Manchester United pressing out the back, Arsenal are absolutely fantastic at squeezing the play, and especially closing down Aaron Wan-Bissaka. And that was a moment that was identified by Mikel Arteta as a place to win the ball back. Arsenal with their pressure from Manchester United goal kicks. We're cutting the pitch in half, with Saka moving to an inside position, as we see all top teams do really well. Ben White was committed high up the pitch, which I absolutely loved in the press. And Arsenal were arguably funneling United down the right-hand side of the pitch to United's worst technical player on the football, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, to create high turnovers with a Martinelli tackle or through a Xhaka intercepting. And we saw that with the Arsenal goal. Obviously, the goal came from a corner situation, but that was one from them squeezing the play. Again, we can see the work rate and the positioning of Arsenal players, which I really, really enjoy. Number one, Saka cutting the pitch. He's cutting that pass off to Luke Shaw to play through Manchester United's stronger left-hand side, focusing United down the right. We can see the positioning of Ben White at the bottom of the screen here. Superb, super high position, ready to press, ready to engage Luke Shaw if Saka has been beaten. This, of course, forces United to play down the right to their weaker side, the side that's worse at build-up. United focus a lot of their play down the left, and then they transition it to the right in the final third. But again, Arsenal knew this. The squeeze comes on. Martinelli wins a really good tackle high up the pitch, and United are a bit of a problem. We can see Raphael Varane making a forward motion to become a player to receive the ball. Manchester United did this a lot against Arsenal. There were moments where Lisandro Martinez was taking goal kicks, and then he'd move high into a defensive midfield position, and Shaw would move around and create another ball playing option. This was to try and mess with the Arsenal press and to kind of cause it problems, and at times it worked. But this is a moment where Martinelli won the ball back. Arsenal in a sort of gegenpressing moment, in a counter-attacking moment. And I think the big thing with this for Manchester United, Arsenal created really good sort of play when they'd won the ball back. There was clear focus, and we can see right now Thomas Partey with acres of space outside the United box to create a 1v1 with Aaron Wan-Bissaka. And we're going to move on to this point in a second, because for me, the reason why Arsenal won this game is because of the dual threat on either flank. Saka on the right-hand side and Martinelli on the left-hand side that pinned United's fullbacks and caused them a lot of problem on the outside, and United's lack of aggression to stop the play. In this passage of play, of course, comes from that high turnover, comes from Martinelli winning the ball high, Martinelli receiving, hitting the byline, forcing Aaron Wan-Bissaka back and winning the corner. Arsenal, of course, have scored a lot of goals from corners, the most in the Premier League this season, and their set-piece team came up with another little bit of a master plan. This time a short corner and trying to overload the back post with their one of their defenders and centre-half, and of course Nketiah on the back post. But United in these moments were a little bit soft in the centre of the pitch. Of course, Casemiro was missing. Casemiro has been a massive part of Manchester United's side, with United conceding 2 more goals per game without Casemiro than with Casemiro in all competitions this season. United lacked a sort of a force in this central area, and this goal, of course, comes from some interplay in that central zone with Zinchenko linking. But what I love about this move is that this is a set-piece routine where Granit Xhaka is the crosser of the football, which causes United's problem, because they're dealing with the likes of Martinelli in an inside position. Bruno Fernandes is picking him up and he's sitting there, but Granit Xhaka providing the width, which is a little bit unusual for Manchester United to deal with. A central midfielder moving into that wide area, showing the fluidity of Arsenal's attack under Mikel Arteta. But again, Aaron Wan-Bissaka switching off on the back post, the second time that this has happened in 3 games, the other time, of course, for the Jack Grealish goal against Manchester City. He needs to be far more switched on in these moments, because it's too simple for Eddie Nketiah to get the run on him and put Arsenal back into the game. So that, of course, were the first 2 goals of the game, both created from pressing moments, highlighting the defensive strengths of both Arteta's Arsenal and Manchester United under Erik ten Hag. But let's move forward to the reason why I think Arsenal came on top here, and I think that's duality on the flanks. As you can see on SofaScore, the front 3 of Arsenal getting an 8.1, 8.0 and 7.2 compared to Manchester United's front 3 of Weghorst, Antony and Marcus Rashford. But it's more important that both wingers were creating problems. Both wingers were driving at their opponent and creating chances. In the game, both Saka with 4 chances created and Martinelli with 4 chances created more chances than Manchester United's entire team individually by themselves, which is starting to see Arsenal's structure and shape really build. And the big problem with Manchester United, not only were they not aggressive enough in the press, as we mentioned before, shipping the outside centre-back to deal with the kind of winger and the fullback push on to press, but the worst bit was how United allow both Saka and Martinelli to drive into the United penalty area with Luke Shaw and, of course, Aaron Wan-Bissaka not blocking off those plays. But United also letting Saka cutting into a stronger right foot at ease at certain times. So let's take a look at some of those moments. The first being Saka's goal, highlighting the strength of Arsenal in the final third. This comes in the second half. Arsenal have made a substitution. Tomiyasu replaces Ben White. I thought Ben White didn't have his best game against Manchester United, was a little bit exposed by Marcus Rashford. Took a really early booking, so it was a smart tactical change from Arteta to bring on Tomiyasu in that fullback position. But I also am concerned in certain points that Manchester United exposed Christian Eriksen to a player of Saka's quality cutting on the inside. United have done so well this season with Casemiro kind of rocking out and blocking off. From a kind of tactical element, it gives United that ability to deal with wide players in these 1v1 situations with Casemiro rocking over. So just from a tactical sense, Arsenal, of course, focusing their play through the thirds and then to their wide players in 1v1 situations. What United usually have in these moments is Casemiro making that move and coming over and blocking that inside, the wide player cutting inside and then either creating or getting shots off. But of course, Casemiro's suspension meant United were a little bit lightweight in that moment. Scott McTominay not maybe a natural holding midfielder and Christian Eriksen more of an attacking midfielder. That is a superiority overload for Arsenal, where the quality of Arsenal's attacker is massive compared to the defensive strengths of the Manchester United central midfielder and Christian Eriksen. This creates a bit of a mismatch. This is something that Arsenal look for time and time again. And Saka for Arsenal's goal was absolutely superb. Spotting that mismatch, having himself space. Of course, Luke Shaw's getting taken up by Tomiyasu. Scott McTominay's picking up Martin Odegaard in this moment. Again, United tried to go man for man in midfield with Arsenal, but it led to these moments. So when Arsenal's shape rotated, you'd have a Saka versus Eriksen situation, which of course Saka is going to have a massive advantage in that position, cutting inside and curling a brilliant shot into the bottom left corner on his stronger left foot. Fantastic goal, putting Arsenal back into the lead and back into a real dominant position. But that happened over and over again. Not only did it happen in these kind of central midfield positions, of course, Saka cutting in the second half and hit the post with another shot. But more importantly for me was when Arsenal were kind of in those wide areas, forcing the defender back into the box, not only on that side with Saka on Luke Shaw, but also Aaron Wan-Bissaka facing up Gabriel Martinelli. There was too many times where there wasn't some, aggression before they got into the penalty area, because when you step into the penalty area, the penalty opens up. So it's easier to defend when you're outside the penalty area in the wide areas because you've not got a threat. If you commit a foul, you might give away a wide free kick versus a penalty. Again, obvious in those situations. But let's take a look at a few moments of Martinelli and Saka forcing Manchester United's fullbacks back. Again, the other situation. This would usually be Casemiro, not Scott McTominay, who's very, very good at defending those wide areas. Over the history of football, Casemiro is probably the best defensive midfielder of all time at working out and defending the fullback. I can remember a brilliant game for Real Madrid where he defended against both Ian Robin and Franck Ribéry on either flank and was man of the match in that. I think it was like a quarter-final, semi-final of the Champions League. But Martinelli facing up Aaron Wan-Bissaka, driving at him, getting into the penalty area, again beating him with a little bit of quality. This is a big problem for Manchester United. The fullbacks need to be better in these situations, and that's something that Erik ten Hag needs to work on with them from a real defensive technical perspective. But credit to Martinelli and Saka busting into the penalty area, creating chances. This one, of course, Raphael Varane defends it at the near post. But this happened over and over again. This time Saka taking on Luke Shaw. Luke Shaw facing him up, but there being too much distance between the winger and the fullback. I think you've got to close that space down, commit yourself to a challenge, put your body on the line and try and win the ball back, because it's too easy for Saka to waltz into the penalty area. And at this point, United have got a big problem. There's players in space, there's players attacking the box from the edge in Martin Odegaard, and you're not putting a challenge in. You're not stopping the attacker. Simple pass to Granit Xhaka's feet, little layoff for Eddie Nketiah, and Nketiah should do a little bit better for Arsenal. But this happened over and over again. This time, Partey out to Martinelli. Aaron Wan-Bissaka being committed. But this time, instead of it being a direct dribble, we see a variation in the Arsenal structure, again showing the development under Mikel Arteta, that not only they can take you 1v1 in those wide areas, but they'll utilise the inside balls and then hitting that inside midfielder, that box-to-box midfielder that's in the attacking 5 structure. Martinelli using Gabriel as a pivot, little ball to Zinchenko in this kind of inverted position, clip pass over the top to Granit Xhaka, and Arsenal, creating massive amounts of danger to be thwarted by a great challenge from Lisandro Martinez to basically stop, a certain goal, break into Odegaard and outside the box. But let's move on to the winner for Arsenal. Again, I thought Arteta used his bench well. Martinelli had a great game, but was tiring a little bit towards the end. And of course, Arsenal have dipped into the transfer market and signed a ready-made replacement in Leandro Trossard. I think Trossard provides a different threat to Arsenal, whereas Martinelli is that kind of bullish, dribbling winger. Trossard has a little bit more finesse about him, a little bit more of a passer than you'd say a direct dribbler. That's not saying that he won't take you on with a dribble, but he has that vision to, link with a fullback and wait for the right time. And that's exactly what happened for the winner for Arsenal. Similar situation where United really failed to deal with Arsenal switching the play. That kind of positional play, Arsenal attacking down one wing and then switching out to a winger. Absolutely superb football, but utilising someone like Leandro Trossard off the bench to create this moment. And again, the positional game that Arsenal do play, it's to create these overloads on certain players. Arsenal have a 2v1 on Aaron Wan-Bissaka. United's defence needs to be a lot more aggressive and faster to move over to the other flank to defend it. Again, the midfield is so disjoint. McTominay and Fred aren't in the greatest of positions. Bruno Fernandes has been aggressive high up the pitch, leaving his fullback completely open to being taken on. It's not bad defending for Aaron Wan-Bissaka, but I think he needs to react to the pass a little bit more. You can see with this next clip that Raphael Varane is already sort of shaping and pointing to get Aaron Wan-Bissaka on that cross, which doesn't happen. Zinchenko gets in behind. Brilliant cutback from the Ukrainian fullback. Fantastic effort from Odegaard that's turned in from Eddie Nketiah. But again, attacking Aaron Wan-Bissaka seems to be a massive advantage for oppositions playing Manchester United now without Diogo Dalot. And I do think, look, Arsenal fully deserved to win the game at the Emirates. I thought their play overall was a lot better from an expected goals perspective as well. You're looking at the overall statistics for the match. Arsenal hit 3.25 expected goals compared to United's 0.36. They completely deserve to win this game, but I'm thinking, I can't wait for next season when United will have, potentially a new number 9 in there, where United will have, both Casemiro and Diogo Dalot, playing against Arsenal, and potentially, one of a Harry Kane, one of a, Victor Osimhen, a Benjamin Sesko, a Dusan Vlahovic that apparently has been offered by Juventus to Manchester United. That changes the game. But again, United are in that building process. Arsenal are there. They've just bought Leandro Trossard that played the pass to Zinchenko that won Arsenal the game. That is the difference between both teams right now. Only 4 teams in Premier League history have picked up more points after 19 matches than Arsenal with 50. That's Liverpool in the 18-19 season, Chelsea in the 2005-2006 season, Liverpool again in the 19-20 season, and Man City in the 17-18 season. Out of those 4 teams that have picked up more points after the 19 games, 3 have won the league and 1 has finished second. And for me, Arsenal are the best team in the Premier League right now. And Arsenal not stopping with the signing of Leandro Trossard in this window. Kiwior joining from Spezia to play in central midfield and defensive midfield. But Ivan Fresneda potentially joining from Rayo Valladolid. The choice between Borussia Dortmund and Arsenal is on the table right now. 18 years old, a lot of quality, wins his duels defensively, looks composed in possession, and I think would be a great addition to the Arsenal squad, giving them extra quality at right fullback. And to finish things off, Arsenal are going to win the league. Gary Neville is wrong. Arsenal are good enough, they've got a good enough squad, brilliant manager, and right now they are absolutely flying in the Premier League. Now let's move on to Liverpool versus Chelsea, a pretty awful 90 minutes of football. The only spark really coming when Mudryk was introduced off the bench by Graham Potter, added a real dynamic element to Chelsea's attack, completed 2 out of his 3 dribbles, which is more than any other player managed on the pitch. I think he's someone that will give Chelsea a real good outlet on that left-hand side. But in terms of the game, it was real poor quality. We're looking at 2 teams that arguably have been 2 of the best in Europe in the last 3 to 4 seasons. But actually, if we take a look at last season, I think that's cost both of the teams this year. Last season, Liverpool played 63 matches across all competitions. They reached the final in every cup competition, and they pushed Manchester City to the last game of the season. That, for me, is catching up to them right now. But also, if you look at Chelsea, they also played 63 matches last season. They lost to Liverpool in the FA Cup and Carabao Cup final, and they got to the Champions League quarterfinals, but they played in the Club World Cup and the European Super Club. Both clubs are 10 points currently off 4th place, and they are looking levels above last season. But I think the good thing for both teams is they are looking for the future. Chelsea are an interesting proposition because when we take a look at their business and their future potential business, there's a real avenue for an attacking side that could be one of the best in European football. When we're looking at the players that have been brought in, it's quite difficult to build a first 11, but we'll give it a go right now. Madueke, brought in from PSV Eindhoven, an inside forward that likes cutting into his stronger left foot, and is a goal scorer. You're looking at the left-hand side, we've all seen Mudryk and what he's, his liveliness in the Premier League and his directness on that left-hand side. But also Nkunku, set to join Chelsea from RB Leipzig as well in the summer. What this could mean for Chelsea is maybe a 4-2-4 structure, maybe a kind of 4-2-3-1 shape with Havertz playing off Nkunku, with Jorginho and Conor Gallagher at the base of midfield. You're probably thinking Kovacic comes in there with the legs. Where does Mason Mount fit in? Where does João Felix fit in if his loan is made permanent, with the reports coming out today that could happen? It seems like it's going to be a difficult task for any manager that's taken over Chelsea, or Graham Potter that's still at Chelsea, to fit all these attackers into one side. But maybe the 4-2-3-1 works with Felix, Mudryk and Madueke playing off Christopher Nkunku. But then where does Kai Havertz play? These are the problems for Chelsea right now. And finally, touching on Liverpool and what the future holds for Jurgen Klopp's men, this is definitely a season of transition. Midfield reinforcements is a must for the summer, but Jurgen Klopp needs to get his attacking balance right. He fielded Cody Gakpo through the middle against Chelsea, with Harvey Elliott on the left-hand side and Salah on the right-hand side. For me, this was a little bit unbalanced. Harvey Elliott spent the majority of his career as an attacker playing on the right wing. Salah's obviously spent time through the middle, and Cody Gakpo's played his best football for PSV as an inside forward on the left. Klopp really needs to rebalance the attack, and that's potentially one way to face up the Liverpool forwards. Another option will be playing Darwin Núñez as a centre forward, dropping Elliott back into midfield, putting Salah to that right hand side and playing a kind of narrow front three. I think one of the issues for me against Chelsea, Liverpool's attackers were far too high in a possession sense. When Liverpool are at their best under Jurgen Klopp, their attackers drop off the line, they receive balls to fleet, and it allows to get the fullbacks in the final third. Liverpool need to get back to this, otherwise top 4 is out the question. Thanks for watching, guys. That has been the Premier League review. Make sure you get into the comments below the games that we should preview on Friday's show at 12:30, but also which games we should review next Monday. Should it be Brighton next week? De Zerbi, Caicedo, McAllister, all that good stuff. Check out SofaScore, subscribe if you're new, and we'll see you later.